In the 3rd year of my marriage to Felix, I suffered a miscarriage after being knocked over by a young girl. Doctors said I'd never be able to have children again. Felix was furious and wanted to have her arrested. But later, as she cried, he softened. He not only forgave her but gave her a job behind my back, keeping her with him all the time, like they were inseparable. Felix was even candid with his friends, saying, "A woman who's had a miscarriage can't compare to a young girl who hasn't experienced anything yet." And that girl had the audacity to come to our house, saying, "I'm not trying to ruin your marriage. I just want to give you back a child that belongs to Felix." For almost a year after the miscarriage, Felix wouldn't touch me. At first, it was because he feared I hadn't fully recovered. Later, he said the memory of me being at death's door made him afraid of me getting hurt again. Eventually, he just got busier until I barely saw him anymore. So, on our anniversary, I decided to surprise him while he was on a business trip. The moment I opened the door, I was shocked. There he was, my conservative husband, wearing just a robe, showing off his abs. When he saw me, he wasn't surprised but rather flustered, saying, "I thought you were Susan." Realizing it was the wrong thing to say, he quickly added, "Susan is my assistant. She's supposed to bring me some documents for work. Don't overthink it." I didn't say a word, just glanced around the room. It was packed with signs, a bouquet of roses, a pair of lovebirds, and junk food Felix claimed to hate, all in a pink, round bed, clearly a lover's suite. Felix scrambled to explain, blame my new assistant. "She's so young and naive, she booked this weird place and bought all this junk food." But he hadn't thrown away the junk food. When I was pregnant, I craved certain snacks. I asked the doctor, and he said it was okay to eat a little. I was dying to have some, so I called Felix to bring them home after work. He scolded me, saying I could eat anything but junk food. Some snacks aren't safe, sure, but I really was craving them. Pregnant women sometimes just can't control these cravings. I went and got some myself, but just as I was about to eat, Felix came home. The moment he caught a whiff, he pinched his nose, yelling, "Haven't I told you not to eat this crap? This smell is disgusting." He didn't listen to any of my explanations, just threw it out and went straight to bed after his shower. And now? These snacks were right next to the bed, and suddenly Felix didn't find the smell disgusting anymore. Felix changed and came out, just as someone knocked on the door. He looked annoyed. "I'm with my wife. Don't interrupt." But the knocking continued, and Felix looked visibly distressed. "Stop pretending, you know who's outside," I said, fixing my eyes on Felix. "It must be my clueless assistant." "I'll get rid of her now," he said, blocking my view with his body. Turns out, the person outside didn't care. When Felix opened the door, in waltzed the girl with her sweet face, saying, "Sophia, you're here. I'm Felix's assistant now. I hope I can get your support." Seeing that the charade was up, Felix took a deep breath before explaining that Susan was like a child who needed constant supervision, which is why he had her close to him. Seeing her youthful energy made him hopeful again, reminding him of the beauty in life. So what, every minute with me he found despairing? Every word from him felt like a knife cutting me apart. "Sophia," he continued, "once you've seen the sunshine, you'll understand my feelings. Don't worry, she won't come between us. I just need an outlet for my desires." As if that made it okay. I couldn't take it anymore. I turned to leave. Felix, frustrated, called out, "Sophia, I've explained everything to you. Why are you making this difficult?" I replied with 3 loud bangs. Hits I felt he deserved in his stunned moment. I slammed the door and left. Doesn't every heartbroken person deserve a torrential rain? The rain chilled me to my core, and on that strange street, I didn't know where to go. But I knew I couldn't stay there any longer. When the flights got cancelled, I bought a train ticket and spent 10 hours sobbing. It was pure heartache. How could Felix say those things? That girl was the one who killed our child. I was already 6 months pregnant then. The baby was fully formed. Susan hit me with her motorcycle, saying she wanted to practice being a writer, but, instead of choosing a less crowded place, She sped through a busy area and crashed right into me. Susan was nowhere near innocent in this. I lost my chance to ever be a mom. I couldn't stand her, and Felix knew it well. I threw her out of the hospital so many times. Seeing her reminded me that she was the one who took our child. I furiously demanded that Susan disappear. Back then, Felix did as I asked, and I didn't see Susan anymore. Little did I know, he was just keeping her close by. He could have delegated things to others, but he chose to travel everywhere with Susan, claiming he couldn't trust anyone else. It wasn't about trust, it was about using those trips as excuses for their time together. Felix could have been with anyone else, and I would have walked away without a word. But he picked the one who killed our child. Where does that leave our lost child? Where does that leave me? In a daze, I ended up at my friend Nora's house. When she saw me looking so defeated and still in my wet clothes, she immediately pulled me inside, insisting I take a hot shower and offering me a warm drink. Once I'd calmed down, she asked what had happened. I told her about Felix's affair with Susan. Nora grabbed a wrench, ready to confront Felix, that piece of garbage. She knew just how destroyed I was when I found out I could never have kids again. Felix had countless busy days and nights, and I felt so bad for him that I didn't dare cry in front of him. I didn't want him to worry or feel burdened. It was Nora who stayed by my side, comforting me through a year until I could accept this outcome. I never expected that missing him so much would end up in such a big surprise. Now, looking back, it's really sad how unlucky he turned out to be for life. I hid from Felix at Nora's place for almost half a month until Nora brought some news. Felix is throwing a party, she said. Looks like he plans to apologize to you. I want to see how he does it. She dragged me to the party location. But as soon as we got to the door, we heard Felix's buddies telling him, "You need to go and sweet-talk your wife. She's been at her friends for days, and if she divorces you, you'll have something to cry over." Felix sighed deeply. A woman who's had a miscarriage can't compare to a young girl, you guys wouldn't understand. Besides, Susan and I are in a honeymoon phase. I can't let it go right now, plus, she's better off at Nora's than starting fights with me. I never said I wanted a divorce. Women are really troublesome. Honeymoon phase? Emotionally and physically cheating and being so self-righteous about it. I shivered all over, feeling as if I'd fallen into an ice cavern. Nora barged in and grabbed Felix by the hair, starting a scuffle. The scene immediately erupted into chaos. In the end, Nora, being a girl, got tossed to the ground by Felix. I snapped back to reality and rushed in. Felix pointed at me and yelled, "What kind of friend is she, acting like a lunatic?" Nora didn't back down, shouting, "You cheating scumbag, you deserve nothing good." His ego hit hard, Felix's anger surged, his eyes turning blood red. "Who are you calling a scumbag? Don't think I won't hit a woman." Seeing he might attack, I didn't give him the chance. I smashed a bottle over his head. Unfortunately, the bottle was too small, so Felix's head didn't bleed. He just clutched his head in disbelief, staring at Maya's angry face froze for a moment when he saw my expression. Because my face was so calm, it was terrifying. "I can't spend another minute with someone like you. I want a divorce." Felix was taken aback, almost unbelieving. "You're divorcing me over an outsider?" In Felix's view, I was just venting for Nora. Why would I want a divorce? Come on, don't tell me you have no idea what's wrong here. What right did he have to say something like that? Felix's confidence wavered. "Sophia, can you stop acting like a porcupine, just throwing hurtful words around? Divorce? We have 10 years of feelings." When it came to feelings, my suppressed emotions finally burst. "Aren't you the one who hurt our relationship? Where's your shame?" I've shown all my kindness in front of Felix, and now my blunt scolding truly shocked him. I helped Nora up and walked away without looking back. As we left, a guy chased us out. Nora, about to curse at him, held back as he said, "Today, Susan borrowed my phone. I didn't catch what she was up to, but I was surprised to see you at a bros gathering." Nora moved her lips but in the end, said nothing. Seems like Susan purposely leaked the info. Nora, clutching her sore backside, carefully looked at me. Sorry, didn't expect Susan to scheme like this. Even though my heart felt icy and cold, a little warmth stirred. I shook my head. It's not about Susan's plot, it's Felix who's changed. We hadn't even confronted Susan, yet this time she actively sought me out, even met at a hospital. In the hospital hallway, Susan, looking smug, said, "Felix said he loves me." Then she looked at my belly, as if watching a joke unfold. "Said when you were pregnant and miscarrying, you got ugly and scary, so he didn't want to be near you. I just sweetened him up and got him to sign a letter forgiving me." In that time I was fighting for my life in the hospital, Felix forgave the one who killed our child so early on. He had appeared so furious when he learned I could never have children again. His rage against Susan was all an act. Was this really Felix? I felt a chill in my bones as if I had never known him. Susan then sneered, "I'll never walk the path you did, and I want you to see whose Felix truly cares for. In the end, I'm the one who'll win." With that, she clutched her belly and dramatically fell down a few stairs, rolling as blood trailed behind her. And then Felix showed up. Seeing Susan lying there, he panicked, not even noticing I was standing nearby. He pushed me aside, and my stomach hit the railing, hurting so much sweat broke out on my forehead. Susan cried in his arms like a wilting flower, "I'm not here to ruin your marriage. I just wanted to give Felix his child. What is my fault?" Her teary eyes looked sadly at Felix. Sophia couldn't have children, which made her upset. I was just trying to help ease her pain, didn't expect her to push me down like a madwoman. Our child is gone." The red stain on her dress instantly made Felix's eyes turn red. "Did you push a pregnant woman? Sophia, how could you become so vicious?" "That was my child." "Vicious? Being with the killer of my child isn't vicious?" Felix's guilt fell away after hearing me. "Sophia, what makes you better? Didn't you also kill my child?" "She didn't mean it, but you did. The real vicious one is you, not Susan." I almost laughed. "Yeah, I'm vicious. But can't hold a candle to Susan's well-prepared act. You really think there are no cameras here?" My words made Susan instinctively look for cameras. She chose a spot she thought wouldn't have them, but what if she was wrong? Realizing her mistake, she bit her lip, glaring fiercely at me. Clearly, I overthought it, because Felix didn't believe a word I said. He was protecting Susan like she was some precious gem. "Are you saying Susan staged this whole thing?" "Susan's as timid as a rabbit, couldn't even handle a paper cut, no way she'd do something like that. I took Susan to get treatment, and you better hope my kid's okay, or you'll regret it." I suddenly remembered the time Felix scolded Susan. She started crying like a wet little deer, and he instantly took back his harsh words. He used harsh words yet never held Susan accountable. Turns out, things changed back then. The so-called signed understanding was just for show, it seems. Any remaining goodwill was completely shattered. I sneered, "Make me regret it? You mean like how I used to just grin and bear it, signing whatever you waved in my face?" Felix met my eyes, sensing something familiar in my gaze that made his heart skip a beat, as though he was losing something. But he was too worried about the baby Susan was carrying, so he turned and left. Soon enough, I understood what Susan meant by her last words. While Felix was busy paying bills, she left a note and vanished. Felix has looked everywhere for her without success, even getting the media involved. His precious little wife ran away. Felix loved her so much he spared no expense trying to find her. There were online reports of someone seeing her silhouette, and even if it wasn't Susan, Felix rewarded those leads handsomely. The girl who posted the picture said Felix was incredibly handsome, not at all like the bald, greasy businessman stereotype. His good looks and deep passion blew up the internet. They say his wife was also his assistant, always by his side, a real ocean-deep love story. Everyone praised him as the #1 loyal lover. Watching the news, I saw Felix, who had lost his usual dignity, desperately searching for Susan. Yet on the day I lost the baby and was fighting for my life in the hospital, there wasn't this level of urgency. Not a crease on his shirt, his hairstyle immaculate. After Felix's parents found out, they brought my parents straight over to confront me. I just moved into this new apartment from Nora's place, planning to start fresh. Little did I know, I'd already have trouble on the first day. First, Felix's parents came in, looked around, and finally sat on the couch in disdainful elegance, giving my mom a pointed look. My mom stormed in and grabbed me by the collar. Can't you do something to stop this mess? Aren't you still Felix's wife? Can't even hold on to a man, what's your use? She spit venom at me like I was her archenemy. Think with your pig brain, a rich, powerful man can't put all his eggs in one basket. You married into a wealthy family, what more do you want? Why make trouble for the mistress? Have you looked at yourself in the mirror? What gives you the right to be picky? I pried my mom's hands off me. If you want to deal with the sand, go ahead, but I don't have to. Once I divorce, maybe you can tell Susan to deal with Felix's future affairs. My mom exploded. Divorce? What gives you the right to talk about divorce? Marrying Felix was a blessing from the good deeds of your mom. How dare you talk about divorce? Blessing? You mean selling me out with a fat check to bail out my brother? We have no relationship now. I'm not even on your household register anymore. My emancipation was signed without a second thought. Felix, in an act of kindness, bought out the relationship with a huge sum and got them to sign an agreement. Back then, I felt indebted to Felix, so I never doubted his love. That's why it took me a year to realize he was cheating. Felix's mother, seeing my mom defeated, loftily said, "Since you know my son gave a fortune for you, you owe our family. You enjoyed our benefits. How dare you take them for free? You should endure it if you have any shame." My mom smiled obsequiously. "You're right, my daughter has no shame." Sophia, apologize to the madam. My patience wore thin with these people. Respect is for those who actually deserve it. I smashed a glass on the floor. Don't moralize at me. I paid you back ages ago. Worried you shameless folks would hold it over me, I invested my designs in Felix's name. That company's profits soared, thanks to me. Now it's the Felix family owing me. Felix's mother looked instantly worse. Many industry bigwigs admired Felix because of my design. This couldn't go public. Her raised voice made her sound uncannily like my mom's unscrupulous manner. Stop with this nonsense. That design had my son's touch. You're just a housewife, what do you know? Trying to steal the spotlight, are you? Felix's father gave me a hard look. You claim the design is yours, any proof? Slander without evidence will land you in jail. I previously laid this at Felix's name honestly, so understandably, I had no evidence. It was never intended for leverage. They knew it, too. They belittled my background and held my design in contempt for a long time. Now that it skyrocketed their company, they turned on me. Seeing their unrepentant faces, I realized why Felix turned out like this. Back then, I was deeply in love, willing to endure for Felix's sake. Now, with love lost, these Felix family members are nothing but nuisances unworthy of my presence. Leave my home now, or I'll bring your company down as swiftly as I built it up. I can't stand shamelessness. Felix's mother, unafraid of threats due to their current stature versus mine, a helpless housewife, was still angered, shocked by my new defiance. Sophia, well done. You just wait. You'll beg Felix someday. They spat these words before leaving, even kicking my mom on the way out. This daughter of yours is ungrateful. That $1,000 is off the table now. Reduced me to nothing, all over a measly $1,000. My mom was so mad she was crying and throwing a fit. My money. You're heartless, you little jinx. Can't you just keep quiet and let me vent? Now my $1,000 are gone. Do you want your mom to starve to death by not letting her earn? What's with my miserable life? She was furious, wishing she could skin me alive because I ruined a chance for her to earn a quick $1,000 just by badmouthing her useless daughter. I looked at her tantrum on the floor and said coldly, "Your life is tough. You didn't have more daughters to trade for cash. Who asked you to only see value in sons? Regretting it now, huh?" Back when she got money from Felix, she was thrilled, counting it and saying with a big smile, if I'd known daughters could bring this much money, I would have had more. No worries about food or drink for life. She said that in front of Felix and me, and I remember it clearly. So Felix had her sign that contract. Talking about her precious son, my dad, for once, got worked up, hitting the table, a woman trying to overturn man's rule. Go ahead. If Felix dumps you, you'll find another guy to beat you half to death, and then you'll behave. When I was little, my dad did beat me half to death pretty often. My mom only needed to mention I was just a worthless girl wasting money, and if my dad was drunk, I'd surely get beaten. If the school needed any money, it turned into a mixed double beating. Until I got older, once holding a knife to his throat, almost slicing him, scaring him enough never to yell at me again. Man's rule? If your rule was so great, why's my mom going around begging for money, crying poor? Apart from being this so-called man's rule, you're nothing. The two were shaking with rage, and I ended up kicking them out. Ever since they took the money, they were no longer my parents. After dealing with those lunatics, I felt exhausted. I decided to take a nap and then go shopping, needed to fill up my new place, but when I was checking out, I got a cold stare. Of course, Felix's mom had shut down all my cards. She even kicked me out of the board. I didn't hesitate to post our marriage certificate online. Turns out I'm not the sweet little wife Felix needs. Netizens went nuts. So the whole time we helped Felix find a mistress. Using us to do something so disgusting, isn't your company just awful? No worries, stocks will teach you a lesson. Just as things were heating up, Felix, who disappeared like he was dead, actually called me. Sophia, I reflected on things, thought maybe I misunderstood you. But I didn't expect you to be this vicious. You could even kick your mom out of the house, shows you're heartless. Now the company's in deep waters and you're happy? Don't forget, we're supposed to be a team. I need you to make a public apology now, claiming we're long divorced and you just wanted to stir the pot for fame. He demanded. I thought Felix was delusional. Your mom cut off my cards and kicked me out of the board. Whether the company goes bankrupt and has to beg in the streets, what's that got to do with me? That was just your punishment, okay? You don't respect elders, so you got a lesson. Do you really want everyone cursing at you just to be happy? Well, I'm happy as long as they're cursing at you guys. Sophia, don't regret this, Felix said angrily before hanging up. Then I started on my final design. Over the years, my name within the company was empty, but I never stopped designing privately. I just never collaborated with anyone. Because my designs are so unique, whenever one leaked, it was clear it's from me, not Felix, but I underestimated Felix's moves. Mom being involved in a scam setting up Felix to squeeze money made headlines. My mom even did a live stream. My daughter set up this scheme to make Felix feel sorry for her, hoping he'd marry her, she claimed, pained. It's her cunning that got out, so Felix is innocent, the other girl is innocent too, she was just Felix's assistant. Felix had to look for her since she was missing, out of responsibility for his employees' safety. But really, my daughter just wants attention and sympathy. Who knows, she might have made the assistant disappear. She was always ruthless from a young age, as her mom, even I am ashamed. With both my parents speaking up, siding with Felix, public opinion flipped. This Sophia is just shameless, isn't she? Her own family speaks like this, must be she lacks character, I'm going to bash her. That's when I began getting dead rats, knives, and oil paint splashed on my door. Couldn't have happened without someone tipping them off. Then Felix calls again. Sophia, you can't blame me for being ruthless. Blame yourself for ruining things for you. My parents have always been fair, they're just mad about your disrespect. If you'd just apologized, within days, unlock your cards, you'd still be my wife. I hung up before he even finished. And then I sorted through years of my mom's calls cursing me, chat screenshots, and our disownment agreement. Alongside was every couple's hotel receipt from Felix's business trips paired with Susan's clock-in records and her little stage drama in the hospital video. All these, I organized and posted online. Also mentioned that all evidence could be forensically verified. Finally, I posted a divorce agreement. I snapped the SIM card in half after it was all done. I sold some design drafts under my alias S to Felix's competitor. This was the name I used before Felix took over my designs. The truth about Felix having no real talent quickly came to light. His reputation tanked, and the rival company kept pushing him down. Eventually, his family's company went under completely. I didn't know all the details because I went abroad. I was away for less than a year to further my studies. To my surprise, as soon as I landed back home, I saw Felix. Gone was the confident man. He looked worn down, like a completely different person. He looked at me as if he had 1,000 things to say. "Sophia, I've missed you." But the next second, a woman shoved a child in Felix's arms, right in front of him. "Felix, this is your son. Are you happy?" Turning back to me, Susan raised her chin high, looking super smug. "I knew you were coming back today, so I chose today on purpose. Sophia, I told you I'd be the one who wins. And your spot next to him would be mine." Turns out Susan was pregnant and ran off. Does she think she's living in some melodramatic novel? Felix was just standing there, holding the child, looking completely dumbfounded. I took off my sunglasses, eager to enjoy the scene. "Susan, didn't you check the news while abroad?" "What?" Susan's confident smirk faltered into a confused frown as she let out a sarcastic chuckle. "I know you refuse to divorce. Now we even have a child together. You've already lost. Only a young woman with a child who bounces back can be the wife around here. You're old and should retire. See, I've even got the heir." She just happened to run into me abroad, purposefully returned the same day, wanting me to watch Felix choose her. That kid was her trump card. I smiled brightly. "You didn't know his company went bankrupt?" Susan's face turned to instant panic. "No way, that's impossible." But Felix didn't say anything against it. Susan lost it, grabbing Felix and shouting out in frustration, "Felix, say something." Trying to escape with a child to become a CEO's wife, but the CEO went bankrupt. Susan didn't believe it, so she tried to visit Felix's old mansion, but it had long been sold. Their family was now cramped in a small, old place. Felix's mom, who was once gentle and elegant, wasn't the same anymore, not just faking it. Susan's dreams of being a wealthy wife were completely shattered, now just a mom with a kid. And her hopes for a lavish life with any other wealthy family were gone too. What CEO would want a mom with a child? She wasn't even anyone's first love. With her family roots, Susan had hoped Felix would turn things around quickly, but turns out his abilities didn't stretch that far. Enough to get by, but forget about luxury. Meanwhile, with my outstanding abilities, I had become quite a wealthy woman myself, regularly showing up at prominent parties and on social platforms. I was living my best life. My mom tried to cause some trouble a few times, but this time she couldn't even get through the door. People online had seen through her facade. No one stood by her. I had no idea Felix had been waiting for me for so long because he couldn't get in. One day, he suddenly appeared, making me almost call the police. I never expected it to be him. "Sophia, I was wrong." He looked even more worn out than when I first saw him from the plane. From the crisis in our marriage and betrayal until now, hearing those 3 words from his mouth wasn't something I thought I'd witness. He always thought he was above everyone, more successful, stronger, and therefore never thought he could be at fault. If he hadn't fallen from grace today, he'd probably never admit it. That kid has autism, and Susan left him just because I didn't have money. Seeing him so pitiful almost made me laugh. Isn't this expected? She only went for your money. What normal woman would want to be a mistress? You didn't really think she loved you, did you? Felix was speechless for a moment. He genuinely seemed to have thought there was real love between them without his pride. Felix turned to me with complaints, but she was the one to have the child. How could she be so heartless to leave him behind? She used to be so pure and kind. Pure and kind? Climbing into a married man's bed is pure and kind? Don't mock those words. You just enjoyed the thrill of cheating. Everyone knows a mistress willing to share hard times wouldn't even be a mistress. Felix nodded. "You're right, it's true. Susan isn't a good person, and neither am I. But my company is bankrupt now, and I've paid the price. Sophia, could you forgive me? Felix looked at me with deep emotions. We've been through so much. I've turned over a new leaf. They say a prodigal son returned is priceless. Could we get back together? He looked at me expectantly. After speaking, I looked at Felix, incredulous. Are you dreaming in broad daylight? I'm not dreaming. I'm very much awake because I know we had feelings for each other. You loved me so deeply. We shouldn't be apart over these things. After trying the emotional card, he starts rationalizing. I suppose no one else would marry me, and you can't have kids, so no one would want you either. Aren't we perfect for each other? Perfect? Seriously? Was Felix's company built on shamelessness too? Perfect? You want me to support two elders, who've never worked a day in their lives, plus a son with autism? Am I crazy to take in a family like yours? You sure can calculate. Must have been an abacus in a past life, with the beads just bouncing into my face. No matter what, Felix still had his old temper. His face darkened immediately. Money, you women only see money. What do you know about genuine feelings? You know quite a bit yourself, trying to have it all, and now with nothing left, you remember your original partner. Any sane woman wouldn't go back to you. She'd be better off chopping off her own head. I shot back, unamused. Felix exploded, pointing at me. Just you wait, I'll make a comeback soon, and when I do, don't expect to come crawling to me. There's no room for you by my side then. Even if you beg, I won't give you a second glance. But, less than 6 months later, all those bold declarations came crashing down. Felix and Susan both ended up in jail together. One couldn't pay back a massive loan, and the other got sued by a scorned wife for being a mistress and couldn't pay up either. Gotta say, they were a perfect match. Felix finally realized why Sophia would never look back. How was he any different from the selfish and malicious Susan? Just a couple of selfish, self-centered jerks. Out of prison, he couldn't help but try to see me and make amends. He regretted forgiving the person who caused me to lose my child and made me unable to have kids. Every moment in that cell was filled with regret. He wanted to apologize, but there was Sophia, standing next to a young and handsome guy. Sophia stood there with a radiant smile, something he hadn't seen since their wedding day. That smile would never be directed at him again. The pain was suffocating. He regretted everything, but it was too late.